Hey guys, it's Al from Altruistic Channel, and I'm coming to you from the side of the mighty Mississippi. I chose this spot because of the message that's on the building behind me. I don't know if you can read it because it appears backwards to me, but it says "Open your eyes," and it's a leftover from Katrina. And I just thought it was very fitting. So the message that I was going to bring today is actually a very, very interesting one. It's about serenity. And here, I'm going to hold this up so that I'm not, like, you don't need to see my pores. I'm beautiful, damn it, but I'm not, anyway. I spent the day in absolute grace. And what I mean by that is that you see a homeless man, or you see someone who hasn't eaten in a couple days, or you see someone that has survived countless resurrections over and over and over again, and you see somebody who was raped by someone who emulated Jesus, and in a cult that destroyed your soul, and you see this person, and if you don't look at it carefully, you miss the beauty of who they are, I guess, because I found my peace by putting the pieces together. And it was by just sitting and watching people at the side of the river today. And I was watching couples pass by. And these are couples that didn't know I was observing them. And I was just in there minding my own business. And I would just smile at them and huge grins across their face. Like just wide, wonderful grins. And were coming back at me. And I just, I was staring at them. And it would be like a woman who you could tell had some sort of like either stroke or some sort of physical problem that they are suffering through, but they're making it, right? And their husband's just beaming, bright as can be, and just holding their hand, and they're just walking, and she's struggling, but she's happy as can be, and he's happy. And then I would see a family, and they'd all be on bicycles, and they were like, the father was ahead, like racing the two boys, and then mom was behind with one baby in the like little cart seat behind her on the bike itself, and the two little girls like in their own little bikes, and they were just having the time of their life. And so I'm just sitting there and I'm staring at it, and the entire time, not one word was said in my head. I wasn't thinking anything. I was just in observation, and I just remember it was clear as a bell. It was a voice that I know all too familiar, and that those of you who are ascending may understand it. And it said, "This is your frequency now." And I didn't question it. There's so much beauty. I don't even know how to explain it. But they're asking me to try to quantify it because I have a way with words, I'm told. Yeah, I got a way with words. I'm really oral. Really good attitude. One of these days I'm going to get my teeth out. Yeah. And then I can gum you to death. But, it's so peaceful. It's not a surrender of power, or it's not a surrender of yourself, or some inability to confront reality. It's that reality conforms to you and how you see it. And so all of the problems that I seem to have just don't matter. And it's so bizarre to me because it's like, well, this is survival, but yet I'm not hungry. I haven't eaten in 2 days. Not hungry. I'm not delusional. I'm just not hungry. And then I realized, and I connected the dots all the way back, and it just started one thing after the other after the other. And suddenly, everything that I've ever experienced in my life, going all the way back to the rape by the guy who emulated Jesus Christ in order to get into my pants, it all made sense to me. And I'm going to do a separate video, I believe, on this topic, where I'm just going to help everybody understand through my own example. And it was a moment of great serenity in a way that blessed me enough to just clearly hear the one phrase, which is, "This is your frequency now." And I just remember thinking, how gorgeous is that? And the only thing I had to do was keep getting up every time. I just had to keep going. And all of a sudden, all of my accomplishments kind of all played out to me, kind of like it was the end of my life, sort of. But without regrets, or without any type of ambiguity, or any type of doubt, or any type of... Because once I had figured out, once it became clear and the download was so clear to me as to why everything had to be the way that it had to be, from the rape by the guy who emulated Jesus Christ, to losing religion in the same breath, and then having no dad, and the pursuit of trying to find a father figure, and then that led me to the Capricorn aspect, and so then I was like, oh, well, that makes sense now, and so then I was looking at the Jesus thing. Well, if I never would have been raped by someone who emulated Jesus, I would never have been brought to a mystic place like this, because I would never have questioned faith beyond what it represents in religion. And the truth of it is that I have no problem with religion. My truth is very simple. I have absolute love for the Pope and for the churches and all of that stuff because I believe faith is super important to the world at large. I don't limit people into believing that they know any better than I do, but at the same time, I do believe that everyone's entitled to their own belief system. And so the problem I have with it, though, is the corruption level and the hypocrisy behind it. And if the Pope would just do us all a favor and check that, get rid of the child molesters, turn them over to the police, let them face the music of what God wants for them, because they're representing God's house. How infuriating do you think that makes God to know that people who prey on children, the most sacred things on our planet, beings that should have not any negative karma, suddenly get this big backlash of like information and download because some guy decides to mutilate them, and we're okay with it? But I wouldn't have been able to question all of that and get beyond it, and I would have been traumatized my entire life and victimized if I wouldn't have had that moment, because then I would never have looked beyond the veil and never have thought, well, obviously there's some things that I need to look at here because this doesn't make sense to me. God would never okay that. Nor would he ever okay women to be subjugated and second-class citizens. That's not a woman. That's King James rewriting the New Testament. But that doesn't explain all the short-dick men before that. And so it led me down a rabbit hole that then saw me seek faith and a system of hope, and I ended up in a cult that destroyed my soul in every possible way. Well, how else can you recapture the ability to pick up the pieces of who you've been and who you are if you don't first get put on the path you're meant to be on? And so it just spoke more to how big my soul was going to be this lifetime. And so then after my mom died, well, how do you make somebody who is on the wrong path and that is so charmed, how do you get them where they need to be almost instantly? I'm the one who deviated. I'm the one who victimized myself. I'm the one who couldn't see the breadcrumbs that were in front of me. But it had to play out that way, because now you see a man that could sit there homeless, without money, without any type of actual support. None of my friends have come forward except for like 3 people, which I'm grateful for, and I'm not complaining. Because without that, how would I get to this point? And so it suddenly became so clear to me that there are a lot of friends that want to help me out, but that they are watching me, and that they are observing what I can do, and they're applauding me, and they're applauding my efforts, and they're rooting me on, and that they're not supposed to help. There's something in many of you that you're trying to figure out why you have not extended a hand to help out a person that has by many means supported many of you financially, or helped out and given you house and shelter when you needed it. Why not help this person? And I was almost in that state where I was going to get tricked by the darker side, which is going to be, well, I deserve better than this. You owe me. No, nobody owes you anything. But had they actually come to my aid, I would never have gotten to finish the 3rd book, which I'm super proud of. The Arcs to Eden is a masterpiece in my own opinion, and I'm humble. But it's a brilliant piece of creation, and it all made sense to me. And it's just so peaceful. And then a microcosm started to explode in my head. It was the realization that New Orleans is a microcosm of the bigger design of the world. We're facing the possibility of judgment, or what I call initiation. But how else would I find the truth of it being initiation as opposed to judgment if I had not gone through what I went through? And how else would I be able to truly see beyond the veil to the mysticism of life, and to see where people have credit when they are logical and poke holes at things? Because now I can poke those holes right up. You know what I mean? I can step into the full power of someone who sees beyond the veil, and not egoishly, but for the pursuit of helping humanity. But you can't do that unless you are someone who has survived every possible betrayal, lie, people stealing, all of this stuff. And do you know what it was? It was that I didn't give up. It's not that I'm better than anyone. I've never been anyone. I'm just Al. And I heard it again. That's why you're special. Because you're just Al. People get so bogged up in this idea that they need to be Christ consciousness or tap into Buddha consciousness or chase religion in a way that speaks to almost an inability to take responsibility for your own life. But at the end of the day, ask yourself, why not just be you? At the end of my book, I made a very interesting statement, and I totally understood it when I wrote it, but it means something so much more sacred to me now, which is I wrote that book as my dissertation on spirituality. It was a book that's dedicated to people who are on the cusp of ascension and are having a hard time getting through the last parts of it because it's brutal. The ego death itself is just absolute nightmare. And at the end of it, I go, I'm doing it because it's my dissertation and because there's so much more to do. You know, I spent the day with the homeless, like actually enjoying speaking to them and engaging them on a person-to-person level. And I met this wonderful woman named Miss Sandra, who presented to me a very interesting thing. She sees energy, and she's been watching as the city of New Orleans has been kind of undergoing this energy surge where it's negative energy. And suddenly I saw it. It was a very dark cloud around her. And I realized who she was, and I realized that she was, and so I just asked God, I was just like, can you do me a favor? If you can do humanity a favor, can you help the homeless? You know, Morgane, I'm sorry, from the Existential Shift said it the best. She did a piece, apparently, I've never read it, but she referenced it one time in one of the videos, where she did a whole article on how many people in the insane asylums in the world are actually very much sane, but were ascending and didn't understand what was going on around them because they were limited and they were categorized insane by people who have no vision or people who are happy in a sedated state. People who have no creation or imagination cannot properly help someone who sees beyond the veil. You know, if you want to think that the world is small and that you're the only beings on the planet, then you are the truly delusional one. It's not us. You know, God didn't go, whatever brought us here, whether it's an experiment, random, it's not random. Each of us have our own personality and we're all connected to the super consciousness. So something is controlling this. Whether you believe it's God or not is up to you. But Miss Sandra was seeing the energy, and I remember thinking about the other two men that had become my friends from the shelter, 3 in total, and one feels energy. I asked him straight out. I go, what did you feel with her? And he goes, she has a super dark cloud around her, which is what I saw. And we hadn't talked. We were just talking to her at the time. This was directly after. And I looked at the other person and I go, what did you see? And he goes, oh, I saw it. So that means that between the 3 of us, I can feel the energy. I can feel like I can feel her innocence and I can feel her truth. And the guy that was on, let's say, the left side of me, I'm not going to say his name, but he can feel the energy, right? Like he just feels, he's an empath. And then the other one is able to actually see energy. And so between the 3 of us, there is nothing you can get past us. And so it's a blessing. But in order to see all this, all of my life had to play out exactly this way. I would never have met these gentlemen. And the other one, I can say his name because it's kind of a lot of people have the same, John, who has been in love with his girlfriend since he was 16 and they've never been apart, and suddenly he finds himself, and he's related to a famous person who, by the way, if you're this person's cousin, he loves you very much, and he's trying to do his best, so maybe extend a little bit of love to him. But anyway, I would never have met them had I not gone into the shelter. And these are people with true gifts, and it lends itself to what Morgane was talking about how when it comes to these things, we don't understand things yet. So why are we putting them in places that make them feel even crazier, make them feel and drug them? And so there's a revisit that we must do, and I guess it's appropriate for Mercury retrograde to remember that. And in the homeless community, how many homeless people do you think are actually not able to work, or how many of them are veterans? How many of them out there are veterans that are traumatized by the war that they did for their nations, and we sit there and pass them day by day, judging them like you judged me, or some of you did not. I mean, a lot of you did not. And so this is very important for me to say because the divine's very clear on this. I stopped them from giving you money until you got to this point. I stopped them from making the decision. I needed you to get to where you needed to be. And I can't even be mad at that because of today. This frequency or this energy that I'm living in now, that apparently is not going away anytime soon, is beyond mystic. It's divine. and it's of love. And there's nothing wrong with it. There's no fear here. Like, honestly, I could take on 1,000,000 people and I'd be standing there looking at them like, we got this. Because we do. If you're a psychic out there and you're going through it because people are making fun of you and you're still a teenager, own your shit. Because the earlier you get in touch with yourself, the stronger your skill set's going to get. If you have one of those IQs that's for spatial intelligence and not regular IQ, so you can't get into Mensa, but you can do like aerodynamics and stuff, then work for NASA and make even more than Mensa does. If you are somehow a mystic or shaman and you have gone through hell and back, then learn to see the beauty in the pain so that you can alchemize it and control the power that's surging through you. Because all of us are being amplified right now. I know, because I'm just a vessel. But I'm one of the most blessed vessels on the planet. And it took literally an entire lifetime of seemingly horrific things that people really can't get over that have happened to me. And do you know what saved me today? Because I'm exhausted. I'm physically exhausted. I'm not even trying to give up. I'm not even in that headspace. It's not even... But my body is like blistered. My feet hurt. I'm not eating. And so I'm just going through the motions of the physical part. And so it's the last part of this particular graduation. But then the divine said something very clear to me. Because, no, you're the only one keeping yourself here. You can always ask for food. I go, but you've been blocking people. And he goes, ask now. But don't ask just for yourself. Ask for what you need to say. And that's where this comes in. There are millions of people in America who are not crazy, that don't belong in mental institutions. There are people all over the world that are working in governments that are not corrupt, but all we see is corruption, because that's who has the strongest voice. I've been so focused on being on the defensive that I never realized how many supporters I truly have. And there are people that may not even know it. I know for a fact that as of right now, as of this posting, because there's going to be a bunch of them, because of what happened next. But the divine said something interesting to me. He goes, your partner is now going to contact you. And I said, okay. Never quantified it as being a sexual partner. It's a business partner. And all of a sudden, the empire that I had in mind on behalf of the divine and kind of humanity, it jumped about 3 times. And suddenly there are a bunch of names of people that you may know on YouTube that I have attached. And I realized that my subconscious has been taking notes. And they'll know who they are because I already tried contacting a couple of them. But they don't know it. They don't know that that's why I was trying to contact them. And so where does this all come from? Is this delusions of grandeur? Well, here's the thing about delusions of grandeur. Are you not the center of the universe? Because if you're not going to make it. This is about people who are going to be able to take the leap of faith, come what may. But it's so fucking worth it. It is so peaceful here. There's no drama here. Yes, there's crime and war, and I could die tomorrow, and then I get to go home. If I live, I get to go home. Opal, I gotta give a shout out to Opal and Jamila. Jamila is one of my favorite people in the world. Well, 3 of them. Natalie at the Artigan is one of my other ones. But Opal, if you guys get a chance to see Opal's cancer video, which is, I'm a cancer, for the month, I guarantee you it will change your life. It changed mine. Because that's what was been playing for the past 2 days in my head, because I've had it on over and over and over again. To get through the pain of the physical aspects to it. And lo and behold, today I got a job. Now, here's the problem. Or not a problem, but here's the perceived issue, is that my feet are blistered and bleeding, and I'm having trouble just with the fact that I'm not eating. But I guarantee you I will be there. And something told me, and something goes, and you may not even start that job. And that's where the comment about your partner may contact you finally. And here's the interesting part. I don't know how this all works out. And the great part of peace and being in this serenity is that it does not matter. It will work out as beautifully as everything else that has happened to me thus far. Whether it be raped, whether it be the cult, whether it be the death of my mother, whether it be the homeless state or the judging me and people being happy and celebratory that I'm falling and that I'm down on my luck, they say, and I'm anything but. The world that we're encountering now, especially in a Neptunian moon like this in Pisces, you can get lost in the delusions of people who want to be negative and victimized. I implore you to go the other way. There's a series coming out later tonight. I'm going to start it off tonight. Here's the thing, my phone gets turned off tonight at midnight because I can't pay it, and that's fine. So I'm going to do back-to-back videos, and I'm going to put them throughout the next 2 days. It's important for me to get them out before the 4th, I was told. But here's the interesting part. The only reason I had this surge because of how exhausted I am. Just physically how exhausted I am. Like, the divine actually, it's okay if I let go. It's up to me. And so I was at the end there, and I was just like, I can't. It's not that I want to give up. It's just that I didn't know that the divine was like blocking people from helping and making me stand up for myself all the way. And that I would even believe it. Like, there was a concern that I could even see this right now because of how low I appear to be. And I just see right through it. I saw right to the truth of it. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. But it doesn't excuse the physical wrath of walking 40 miles in the past 5 days. Well, 6 days total. I've walked 40 miles. My skin color is not this dark, y'all. This has literally burned my skin. And I have, like, sores and stuff on my feet. And I couldn't be happier. But it doesn't mean that the physical body can handle the expression that is coming through me. So we're making it on the fact that a friend of mine, finally, an ex of mine, who's a savior of mine, who suffered a stroke. A musician, no less. Very gifted one from LA. Someone I was in love with for about 2 years. We were together. And his partner actually saw it. The partner anyway, there's a long story to that. But his partner let him know that I was homeless. He hadn't seen any of this. And he had had a stroke. And the fact that someone who had a stroke and was trying to learn all the things that you do to get back on your feet after such a thing, his concern was me and immediately asked me what was going on. And it was the moment that I needed the most. Because I'd spent all my life loving everybody else that when I was almost scared to ask people to love me back. And then I realized how stupid that was. And so I asked the universe, I said, look, I'm barely hanging on and I know I can do this. But not one person. And then I realized that there were at least 3 that have helped me out. And I just was grateful for it. And lo and behold, this dude, my ex-husband, I call him, he randomly calls me up and we start talking. And it was the fact that he could not do anything to help me, but that he cared so much that he felt hopeless. It saved my life. And it's what gives me the energy to continue tonight posting what you're going to see. There is going to be videos more in depth on religion, also some of the masters. There are empires that I have in mind with my partner, who I have a feeling will finally see through the veil at who I have become, and who wants to join the peaceful community that is being built all around us now. The Chosen, I thought, were going to inherit something very, very sacred, like almost like a lot of money. Or they would be super successful in every industry. I never realized that they actually would just inherit the earth. If you don't think I feel like the king of the fucking world right now, you are sadly mistaken. I'm sitting on the side of one of the most dangerous rivers to New Orleans that has destroyed the city on more than one occasion. And all I can feel is the peace and serenity that surrounds God's grace and all of the cosmos. Whether you believe God or the universe or whoever you believe in, have you ever stopped to watch people walk by you? Have you ever stopped to see children play without you looking for anything other than just to observe? It's through the veil. It's standing on the other side of the veil looking ahead as opposed to standing behind the veil thinking I can go back. I'm assured I can't. Wherever this goes is going to be completely remarkable. And as Opal put it, it'll be up to me which thresholds I open and what doorways I go through. But there's at least one network I have in mind. There are at least 2 other industries that I want to affect. The books are already out. The Arc to Eden is going to be super important to a lot of people. It's going to, hopefully I even get a Nobel Peace Prize. My ego went into that one like, yeah, let's do the Nobel Peace Prize. And I was like, why not? Coming from somebody who has absolutely nothing to the outside world. Yet I have the world. Something to think about. That's it for Al and Altruistic Channel. This is the first video for tonight. To my LinkedIn community, I will be putting an article out about my experience with the shelter. If you are in New Orleans, do me a favor. Go out and give some food to the homeless people in this city. This city is almost at the verge of what I consider a question of whether we're the Atlantis or the whether we're Atlantis or we're the next rising power. And it's going to be based on how much humanity helps humanity out. Because in doing so, you're helping love yourself. Every fear that you have is your own fear towards you. Every love that you have for the outside world is a love that you don't get at home. Everything that you act out is because you are literally seeking something or trying to warn yourself. You're trying to get attention from your soul. And your soul's looking at you and going, I will help you. But we're so busy looking for exact things. The things that people tell me that I'm crazy for believing, that I see through rose-colored glasses. Yet from where I'm standing, I'm the healthiest person on the planet. I am untouchable. Why? Because I see only beauty and nothing but destruction. This city could be the next Bethlehem. But it's going to take the people of New Orleans doing what they do best, helping New Orleans. Go out and give to the homeless. Check out, if you're a doctor who happens to have a degree in spirituality and psychology, which I think is super important in the next year, do us a favor. Go out and see how many people actually are not crazy, that maybe have just been suffering Ascension, not suffering, but going through Ascension, and have been locked up improperly. Morgane would love that, and it's one of her articles, and I totally believe in her. She's amazing. And then Natalie at the Artesian has some very special projects going on. I don't know exactly what they are, but seek her out. She's really wise and has amazing programs for psychics and stuff. And then, of course, there's Opal, who is so tapped into the shaman culture and the mysticism that you will be in love with her as much as I am. And last but not least, Miss Jamila. I don't think there's anyone more connected to the divine aspect of Source. And the other person would be Adelina Bonds, but she's taking a break for now. Learn to appreciate each other, to send shout-outs and love like if you can. Because again, you get it back. But it's not about ego, it's not about you getting anything in return. It's just about realizing that the world cannot shift without your shift first. You are the shifting force. That's it for me. Bye.